We were told before the last election by Reserve Bank, by economists, by the National Party as well, that for inflation to come down, unemployment needs to go up. We had Craig Rennie on last week, and he made the statement, it's an active choice by this government to have unemployment go above 5%. Yes, it's going to increase somewhat, but decisions they're making policy-wise is making that go above the 5%. Maybe other decisions wouldn't mean it would have to. Yet at the same time that the then national opposition was telling us unemployment has to go up, and it's been projected that it's going to go up some more, they're also telling us we need to get as many people off unemployment as possible. And if you don't, we're going to sanction you if you don't follow the rules. And last night I thought about it and I listened to Mr. Luxon talking, and he was basically saying, you don't even have to get a job. You just have to be prepared to get a job. And I went, this is theatre. This is cosplay. Yep. What they're actually saying is, they're not saying this, but we see in the economy, there's fewer and fewer and fewer jobs coming up over the next 12 to 18 months. There's more and more and more unemployed. And Mr. Luxon just wants to make sure everyone's got their shiny shoes on, their suit and their hair done, but then you can go back to playing PlayStation because you haven't got a job, but at least you look like you're ready for one. Is that the vibe around Parliament at all?
Well, yeah, I think, and like you say, I think it just speaks to the, speak to any beneficiary that's gone to these like work seminars or, meet with a case manager about the obligations, and they'll tell you that it's a tick box exercise.
Yeah.
Back to my point that like there is no research that backs sanctions and these work obligations is like meaningfully supporting people into good employment. Often what we end up getting is people just being pushed into whatever shitty random job that is like first available, and I've seen how people get pushed into jobs that like you end up spending more money in childcare, you end up with like massive commutes, and I think that's just not worth it. Like I think we do need to unpack all these assumptions that like and Louis Hobson says that any job is better than no job, and I actually disagree. Like if you're a caregiver, there are some jobs that would literally compromise your ability to like look after your family.
Yeah.
And so like I think it's just this almost Victorian era, like like really outdated way of viewing the world. I think the other side of it is like to the point around unemployment, like politicians will never openly admit, and particularly Labour and National, who have both kind of subscribed to this idea that like they do rely on unemployment going up to lower inflation. It's just this like conventional capitalist way of viewing the world. And, if for anyone watching, I guess it's like the question is, when have you seen unemployment at 0%, like, or close to 0%? Like it's a design it's designed by people who designed the system that there will be some unemployed people at all times. And when inflation goes up, you basically, one of the tools you have at your disposal is to throw more people into unemployment because that reduces people's spending power and it cools down the economy. But like, it goes back to that kind of like the government wanting it both ways. They want to cut jobs and make life harder for beneficiaries. And it just goes back to beneficiaries being an easy scapegoat.
And then, of course, they give tax cuts, which are inflationary because by definition, they're putting more money back into the economy. So they're saying we need to bring inflation down whilst they're actively making policy moves that will likely increase inflation.
Well, that's right. I mean, and at the same time, obviously cutting services that, that in and of itself could lower inflation. But the point at the end is like, this is a government that, from my perspective, has never had addressing things like inequality and poverty at the top of mind. And in some ways, it's just doubling down on a broken system that is there to punish poor people and reward the people already doing really well. And yeah, like you say, that the over $2 billion for tax cuts for landlords, as well as how the tax cuts will disproportionately benefit people on six-figure salaries. Like it's just speaking to a system that's allowing people to accumulate a lot of wealth and leaving the hundreds of thousands of people on poverty, but worse off effectively.